What was the big story this week? For everybody, the Deficit Commission. Now, we all know that we have a giant debt that has to be taken care of at some point. And again, I find this is more of the same. Typical Democrat giving up before the game even begins. The Deficit Commission, the two guys, Alan Simpson, Republican, we know what he's about. That's okay. He's an honest guy, he believes it. Erskine Bowles is the choice for the Democrat side. So really a corporatist Democrat. So right away, we've lost before the game even begins. Here's what they suggested. Raise the retirement age to 69 in 2075. The idea that Alan Simpson is talking about what happens in 2075 is pretty funny because he's 102 right now. Cut Social Security benefits, eliminate all tax deductions, but lower the income tax rates to 8%, 15%, and 23%. So the richest people would be paying 23%. Hasn't been that low since 1915. And this is how we're going to solve the deficit problem. A gas tax of 15 cents more. Perot wanted 50 cents more 20 years ago, and veterans cut their health care. No mention really of defense cutting. This is a bullshit. Excuse me.
It's complete bullshit.
Yeah. Is it not?
It's complete bullshit. It's sad. It's that President Obama, the first commission he has is a commission to reduce the deficit when we've got so many millions out of work. Should have been a jobs commission to start with. If you don't want, I'm telling you, I got the very easy plan here, and I don't need to have a lot of commission meetings to just say what, and I think you would agree with this. You want to reduce the deficit, you want to reduce the debt in this country, 2 words, single payer. That will go a long way right there to cutting. And here's the second idea. Well, stop invading other countries.
Yes.
That's right.
All right?
That's so true.
So it's a $3 trillion debt that our grandchildren will carry. $3 trillion.
There's two points of what you brought up. All that additional taxes or reducing taxes you talked about, at the end of the day, they only increased the revenues to the government of about $700 billion. You know, that's the same amount as if we end the Bush tax cuts for the top 2%, which would keep Social Security absolutely solvent for 75 years. Second, defense spending. It is true. We are building a good military today, but it's more expensive and less effective. We still measure our military prowess by how many ships, how many airplanes, instead of knowledge-based systems. If we knew where bin Laden was, it would make a difference rather than having ships sit in the middle of the Indian Ocean. That type of reshaping of our military is what's needed.
This Deficit Commission, the report's not going anywhere. It's dead on arrival in the House, it's dead on arrival in the Senate. They will not vote on it, they do not like it, because there's something in there for every side to hate. And it does advocate some cuts to the defense authorizations, which is one of the reasons Republicans won't sign on to it, probably. And they have to get behind something because the American people, as much as you think they might be like dogs, right now feel very angry with government. And that's why they're against all these SALT limitations or guidelines or whatever it is that you bring up. It's not necessarily that they're so clueless. It's that they feel like the government has gotten them into this position where they don't have jobs, where Wall Street's being bailed out, but they're not getting help.
But they are clueless because they blame the wrong people. That's clueless. I'm sorry.
They're throwing out the guys they think did it, so they're trying a new set.
Well, that's pretty clueless, just to go, I'm going to vote for the people who aren't there now. They voted for change in 2008. It didn't happen.
But, Bill, I would argue they voted for change not just in policy, but in politics. You saw the end game in the Senate of how they dealt with that health care bill. Senators reaching over and saying, you only get my vote if I take that to my state of Louisiana, Florida, Nebraska. When Massachusetts voted for Senator Brown, they didn't vote against the Democrats and for the Republicans. They voted to say pox on both your houses. We voted for a change in politics, not just policy. Stop the political calculations and start doing what's right.
Well, it's hard to know what to do. If you watch politicians on television, which I do all week long, it's hard to know what to think of them. I understand voting no on anybody who's there now. All they do, in fact, all they seem to do is appear on cable.
Yeah.
And thank goodness for that.
Well, it's hard because, as we're saying, this side the Democratic side, except for people like this,
Yes,
few
of
people, they
present
don't make the
company.
case. So we don't really know that. You know, like don't ask, don't tell. 70% of people want this to be repealed. This is still not enough political cover for these pussies.
I
The
understand.
Democrats always looking at the other side of the room to the girl who's never going to fuck them.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know,
Right.
not only that,
Yeah.
you've got 5,000 sailors on an aircraft carrier. Their average age is 19 and a half. And you saw that in the survey that was leaked last week. They don't care. This issue
Right.
of don't ask, don't tell is in the wake. Let's
But
move on
where
to something
was-
important. And the
but where
leadership
was
down
the
there in our own
president on
party
this issue?
wouldn't do
Exactly.
anything.
Why could he
Not
not? There
leading.
all these
I
things
don't
he
know.
could have done.
He has the
still
power.
would have
He-
lost.
he's
They
the
argue that they
executive.
don't.
He can-
They argue that they cannot.
No, he does have the
because-
power. He has the power to do so many things without Congress, and he should
know,
use that power for the next 2 years.
That's
he has
what I-
regulatory
that's
power.
what I- yes.
He can
Yeah.
issue edicts.
And you know why
orders.
it's so disappointing? I thought when we elected a black president, I thought 2 years in, I would be making jokes about what a badass gangster he was. Instead of yet another in the long line of Democrats like Al Gore, who looks like a wimp, that do caucuses. I mean, it just, that we seem to never get past this type of Democrat. I don't understand why. I don't understand why Clinton got all the testosterone in the entire party. He and Nancy Pelosi,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Clinton has so much testosterone, he has a prescription for blowjobs.
Right. I think it's if you look at what you have Mike Huckabee at the head of the show, and you got to give it to the Republicans. They do such a good job of formulating their message, speaking clearly to people, and when he just sits there and lies to you about how Pepsi just, made a good corporate decision and removed trans fats without the government doing anything, without actually mentioning that the reason we know trans fats are bad is because our tax dollars paid for the studies that discovered why they're bad. Yeah. That's why they did it. And they are such good liars.
Yes.
And to say, you got to understand, Democrats, a lot of them, because they don't want to lie and because they do want to listen to the other side. I mean, the definition of liberal is you want to have an open mind and you want to give the other side a chance
But they don't have to lie.
to say
They just
something.
have to say what they've done.
But they don't know how to do it because when they say come up with words like stimulus,
Clinton
it's like they
did.
come up with these gynecological, terms. If they're going to, what's a stimulus? Why not, if you're going to use gynecology,
But
call it a clitoris.
I
We have a
remember-
clitoris plan for you, America.
But Michael, you said the key phrase. Republicans.
And I got my clitoris today. Yes, came in the mail.
But we should be talking to the people, and we tend not to. I honestly think that's our major
I went to
fault.
the-
But you're
If we went
forgetting-
down there and just talked to one another instead of getting out there on the hustings and explaining
Right.
and letting them know what's going on.
I mean, Bill Clinton, again, and by the way, he's not on my good side these days because I watched that movie Inside Job. Terrific movie about what happened really with our crash in 2008. And, Clinton, that administration really was the one, as much as the Bush one after him, which I guess was
Not as much.
But you know what?
He
They
started it.
certainly
He started it.
Phil,
All right.
Phil
Yeah.
Graham should have left Congress mad at Clinton for stopping him from it, and yet Phil Graham left Congress having Clinton be his enabler. They repealed Glass-Steagall, all this stuff
Yeah.
that allowed the deregulation, and that started under Clinton.
But you know
he
what?
turned the Democratic Party into the
Because-
second corporatist party.
One of the reasons he did that is because he got his ass kicked in '94, and so his advisors.
So his ass is what matters.
So his advisors, yes, told him you're going to need to move more to the right, more pro-business, and he
Yeah, he
took
hired
the wrong
assholes
lesson.
like Dick Morris.
And Larry Summers was his Secretary of Treasury, and so if Obama makes the same mistake after this election,
Right.
of we need to be more conservative and more pro-business, and that's how we win elections. The Democrats who really lost, your present company again excluded here, you're a rarity actually from last week, but in Congress, the majority of the conservative Democrats were defeated.
Right.
And the progressive Democrats, they have a caucus of about 80 progressive Democrats, only 3 lost. The more liberal you were, you won last Tuesday. That's that, and he won't take, they are not.
But remember, last April, Bill Clinton did say he got, and he admitted it, and he was accountable, said
Yes,
I got
he has-
led astray
yes.
on the derivatives. But let's not forget that all that said, 23 million jobs in 8 years versus 0 during
is
the
correct.
Bush era, and 3 budget surpluses on the way to reducing the national debt to where it was a surplus. And what did Bush do? Doubled it. Let's just remember that. But you're right. There were mistakes made.
No one's forgetting the fact. No one's forgetting the fact that this frat boy totally destroyed this country economically. Our standing around the world. We all get that. But it's 2 years later, and you can't keep blaming the people who created the mess. I mean, yes, we'll never stop being pissed at Bush for what he did. But right now, we've got to fix this. And you guys, the Democrats and Obama, have got to be the ones to do it. And if you actually do it, if you actually get in there and do it, you'll have everybody here behind you, all the way.
Courage of your conviction. Courage of
All
your
right,
conviction.
thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry. I got to move on. Great panel, great season. Thank you, folks. Let's do